Wherever you are in the world, welcome to Where We Are. And where we are, the sun is warm, the wind is gentle, and the surf is just about right. I'm with Dr. Susan Van Scoyoc, and I'm Stephen Van Scoyoc, and we're here to talk to you about something that could have been very traumatic and very destructive in the mere moments before we walked out the door with our suitcases. Anything to say?
Well, it was timely. It was really interesting that it came through the day before we went on leave. Traumatic is not a word I would have used.
Oh, it was traumatic.
Yeah, exactly. However, yes, a big event, and in fact, a really worrying business event, and confidentiality, security, all of those things that certainly psychologists worry about, business people worry about. And if you're a psychologist in an independent practice, this is your business. So, yes, the day, was it the day we were leaving or the day before we were leaving?
No,
it was the very day we packed the car and you got an email, and you can pick up the story because it's your story.
Well, those who know me know that I have passwords like blah, 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 that I have long and incoherent passwords, and if there is a security feature that can be enabled on an app or on a data package or a program, I do it. I have it. People laugh at me. I know
actually, it makes it impossible for me to get in. It's not laughing at you.
I've heard this before. I've had somebody tell me, if I have to do one more thing, I don't think I'll ever get into any of my apps. Okay, so naturally, I have two-factor authentication on my phone, actually anywhere, but it's mostly on my phone, to open most of the apps. And the one I'm talking about today is Microsoft. We have Office 365, as many of you do. We have a number of accounts attached to it for people that we work with or we're associated with.
But for me, and for most of the people watching, this means all of our email access, and just as important, all of our calendar access for bookings.
As well as Skype, Teams, OneNote,
which I use for record keeping.
And because mine is the administrator's account, actually Susan's is an administrative account as well. But
is it? But I never know that. Yeah, I don't go anywhere near it.
Because mine is an administrative account, I have access to everyone's emails, everyone's calendars, everyone's notes. I have access to all of that. So as we were walking out the door, I got that tone that I recognize as a request from Microsoft to authorize access to my account.
And you think that's a bit odd.
I thought that's a bit odd because I wasn't trying to get into it. And I looked down and there's the three numbers, which you're supposed to choose the one that matches what's on the screen of whoever's logging in, and I simply chose deny. And then, of course, I sat down right away and changed my password to something even more difficult and something even more incoherent. And I made sure that I wrote it down somewhere. This was very scary because we were one number away from somebody having full access to basically our business. I know that we always think, I get it all the time, well, I'm worried about using fill in the blank because they're on the cloud somewhere and I don't know if they can be trusted. Most of us think somebody figuring out our PIN, which is a mere 4 digits, or our password is remote. But in fact, these are probably the most common breaches of security that you're going to run into because we don't want a password that's hard to remember. We don't want to use two-factor authentication because it seems complicated. I'll talk more about that in just a second, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to say, but because of the developments and things now, someone somewhere can set a computer to find your password, and it will eventually, because it does it so quickly.
It's brute force.
It's basically generation of I don't know, millions of random numbers and combinations until it gets it right. And in fact, I mean, you're a techie, let's face it. You sat there, we didn't leave as we'd intended. We delayed an hour whilst you were dealing with this, and you tracked down that it's probably on your list, but you tracked down that this was, the hack was coming from China.
It was originated in China. I have the IP address. My IP address, I will make this an image of this available, and you'll notice that our location is Germany. Except we're not in Germany. It's been a few years since we've been to Germany. We also use VPNs so that our data goes through a tunnel that people can't get to. I'll explain that some other time.
The point is, we are going to get to what is useful for the people watching, aren't we? The key, you better. You can't frighten people and then not have some suggestions.
Okay, so what I want to remind you about, and it's always changing, and I realize it changes, and it's the last thing you want to have to think about. There are 3 factors to keeping your data secure. And it's something you know, which is your password, something you have, which is your phone, or can be your phone. It can be a security dongle, and something you are, which is biometric. It could be your fingerprint, your face. Microsoft uses face recognition. And if you have an authenticator, Google has one, Microsoft has one. There's a whole lot of them out there, but I think Google and Microsoft are probably the top ones.
They're the biggest.
They're the biggest ones.
Yeah.
They're actually fairly easy to use, and they can integrate into whatever software you're using. But the point is, when you go to access your bank, Microsoft, you will be asked to provide a code to access your account. After you've put in the right username, after you've put in the right password, you will be asked to put in a code. The code is unique to you and your phone. It renews every 30 seconds. So the only way somebody could get into your account is if they actually have your phone and your code within that 30-second period of time.
And this is what saved us.
This saved our bacon.
In the scenario that you and I are describing, because they needed that extra. So I'm assuming that some computer somewhere randomly generated our password. They already had your email address, because that's easy to find on the web.
Easy to find.
So the third factor here was the bit that saved us being hacked and having all the distress that would have brought to everybody, actually.
What a nightmare. What an absolute nightmare.
Yep.
And I assume that if that happened, we would have had to report to the Information Commissioner that there had been a breach. And of course, since we've been in business for decades, that's a lot of information. So, there are other ways. Some of you know that if you access a brokerage account or a bank account, they may want to send you a code by SMS, by text. It's good. It's not perfect. It's not as good as using an authenticator, but it is better than nothing.
That's just what I was going to say, but it's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing. The strategies on passwords, and I'll go ahead and tell you this now, has changed somewhat. It used to be you wanted something unintelligible and completely random, which, you know, when you're trying to do it on a phone, it's just impossible. You know it. We have now decided, well, didn't have anything to do with it, but they have decided that you're now better off using multi-word passphrases. And the words should not actually have any relationship to each other. You don't need to worry about correct sentence structure or anything like that. But you put those in with a space between them. 4 and 5 seems to be optimal. It's good if you can do a mix of letters and numbers and symbols. So when you create your words, instead of a space, you could put a slash or you could put a hyphen. Basically, what you're trying to resist is a brute force attempt to break down what your password is. And once they get past that, if you don't have two-factor authentication, your goose is cooked.
So if my theory is right, that actually if you set a computer to crack something, it will within a certain period of time, even with the word slash, another word, hyphen, another word, it would crack it in the end. And so what I think I've learned from you is that's hence the two-factor identification.
Yeah.
There's got to be something else after they've cracked the password.
Yeah, something that they don't have access to, something that they can't control, something they can't steal.
And in fact, only you have it in your possession. You said about
That's
the
right.
object?
Something you have, your phone. Now, I will say that when you create an account in your authenticator for Microsoft or one of your accounting programs or something like that, it's going to give you about a dozen recovery codes in case you ever lose your phone. You absolutely want to make sure you have a copy of those in a safe place because that will be the only way to actually get back into your program without a lot of difficulty. And then once you've done a recovery with one of the recovery codes, you can set up an authenticator again. You can set up an authenticator on multiple phones and use them interchangeably because the code is only good for 30 seconds. There is one other thing.
Can you remember what it is?
No, maybe I already covered
I can
it.
talk about the 30 seconds though. I have to say I get really frustrated with the 30 second to put in your authenticator code because I find that I often cannot go from my keyboard to my phone to open up to get the number that's up on my computer screen that they want me to authenticate. So I have to tell you that quite often I have to go through 2 rounds of that. It still works, but I often can't do it in 30 seconds.
Well, I have to admit, I wait until the code refreshes, and then I start at that.
Okay. Okay.
I'm like you.
So I can't move that fast. It's got nothing to do with age or ability. It's just they must all be 15 and. I don't know. Computer geeks to be able to keep up with that.
Whatever it was, I can't remember it. It's not important. I may address it later, but this is the most important thing to come out of this little short blurb is that if you're not using two-factor authentication, start using it. If you're using, I'm going to say it, stupid passwords, the year you graduated, the name of your dog, stop it. Just stop it. Because they can figure that stuff out really quickly. Also, I know what it was I was thinking of. Most of our credit card accounts now have a service where you can go in and look and see if any of your passwords have been compromised. There's also some open source things on the web that you can go to where they will tell you if any of your passwords are being passed around on the dark web. I found this particular password has been compromised 3 times. So it was running around on the web, and all anybody had to do was match it up with a good app and a good username. So don't repeat your passwords. Yeah, I know, it's easy to have the same spot 57 on all of your accounts. But once they're in, they've got you. They've got everything that you have. So start swapping out your passwords. Make sure you have, or passphrases. Make sure that you have a unique one. Now, there are a whole lot of places that want you to have a password and they want to tell you exactly how to do it. You need 3 special characters in upper and lower case, and it needs to be between 10 and 11 characters. Okay, there is no way to escape that. You have to do it. Make sure you have two-factor authentication as the final hurdle to get into your account. And I think that's it for me.
Well, actually, I'm going to ask you something because that's a lot of condensed information for us non-techies. All right, you've said a lot of do this, find out about this. Are you going to write something to go with this video, which is where you can go and find out information about this? I don't mean actually do it for everybody, but
I think I'll do another video, and I'll post it on our website. I'll post a section on our website.
I'm just aware that this is heavy-duty stuff for those of us who are not techie. Yes.
You learn quick when somebody's hacked your account or almost hacked your account.
Yes.
Although I was actually already aware of this. I use two-factor authentication everywhere and have for several years. I haven't audited you.
Don't even think about it. I'm going to have to follow some of this advice.
All right, so after that frightening bit of news, we shall return to our nice weather and our nice surf and wish you the same. Take care.
Bye.